Foreign Connection in Japan. Japan is home to various communities of foreign residents. For example, Tokyo's Kagurazaka district, where many French people live and Paris-style cafes line the streets. Or Chinatown in Yokohama, offering a range of Chinese cuisine and attractions popular with tourists. This time, we visited Edogawa Ward, the easternmost area of Tokyo. About 17 minutes by train to the city center, it's conveniently located. Noticeable is the large number of Indians. In fact, about 2,000 live in the area, accounting for 10% of the entire Indian population of Japan. In recent years, Edogawa has come to be known as India Town. So why do so many Indians live in Edogawa? We talked to its oldest resident.
Namaste. In the early 80s, we had one family, then two, then three, and then four, and that was the maximum.
Mr. Chandrani, who first moved here 30 years ago, is a father-like figure of the Indian community. Many Indians are said to have moved into the area after he set up his Indian restaurant and food store. Every Sunday, a crowd gathers at a local Indian restaurant. With the atmosphere, it's easy to forget that this is Japan. So what do they think about living here?
In India, people socialize more and you have very close neighbors and stuff. But in Japan, it's very different. And people are more into work.
For me, it was a shock that okay, there are lots of Indian restaurants, lots of Indians over here.
Since many came to Japan with their families, an Indian school was set up for their children in 2006. India is known for its educational system. We visited the school to find out what makes it unique. The Global Indian International School has a nursery and kindergarten for 2 to 4-year-olds and regular classes for 5 to 15-year-olds. Currently, 250 students are enrolled here.
The general impression is that people from India are highly skilled in IT and math, but it's no wonder, really, they use computers in class from such an early age.
This is an IT class, and the children are working with computers. Japanese students can also be seen here and there. In fact, the school is about 30% Japanese. So why do they attend an Indian school?
I think recently what I came to understand, Japanese children, the number is increasing in our school just because of the English knowledge.
The reason? English proficiency. In fact, all the classes here are taught in English. Many Japanese parents have enrolled their children at the school to expose them to the English language. Meanwhile, in another class,
I can hear Japanese coming out of this room. They're studying Japanese, and there are quite a few Indian students too.
students also learn Hindi, French, or Japanese as a second language.
こんにちは。こんにちは。名前は何ていうの？アフラ。すごいね、日本語上手ね。そう、日本語の勉強好き？そう。何が好き？漢字。漢字好きなの？なんで？難しいから。
She is Afra Hussein, who is in the 5th grade. Afra was born in Japan and has never lived in India.
お父さんは何をしているの？お仕事。ソフトウェアのエンジニア。じゃあずっと日本でお仕事をしている。そう。でお母さんは？ここで何をしているの？先生。
Afra's mother, Yasmin, is a geography teacher at the school.
I was working as a lecturer, so I felt I can do something more for the students who are going to come here.
About 90% of the teachers are women. Many went to university or graduate schools in India and came to Japan because of their husbands' work. What is life like for Indians in Edogawa? Yasmin and Afra invited us to their home.
This is my house.
And this is your house.
The family decided to settle down in Japan and bought this house a year ago for about $600,000. Yasmin got married in India in 1999. She moved to Japan after her husband, Jahir, started working here. Afra and her sister, Faiza, were both born in Japan. The family moved to the area in 2006 so that their children could attend the Indian school.
Welcome. This is the interior of my house, and this is the living room.
For Yasmin, one of the things she loves about Japan is the convenience of electrical appliances.
Yes.
It's on time.
This is nice.
And another one.
This is so handy, so helpful. Electric cookers, when I started using, they were amazing with the time. I can just set it the time, and then in the early morning it is cooked and done.
Oh.
And finally, one of her most favorite appliances.
It flushes, automatic flushing. It even washes the foam and everything. I don't have to literally do anything.
Asked about living in a Japanese-style house.
Steep,
Yes,
narrow.
initially it was a little difficult for me because normally they are narrow. I always tell my children to be a little careful. Second daughter, Faiza's room.
The ceiling's very high, isn't it, for a Japanese house?
Yes, we actually wanted something like that too, because in India the ceilings are quite high.
Yasmin says she's gotten used to life in Japan. She shops for groceries at the local supermarket. Her years living in Japan is obvious as she fills her cart with Japanese products. A particular favorite is this.
Here we use a lot of tomatoes. So when I came here, of course, either they were too expensive. So we would prefer to have, the tint for our curries. So, and quite cheap. So I think it's one of the best things we have here. We have to
But there are also things she avoids.
Some in India are pure vegetarians, and some who have their religious beliefs intact. They would prefer not to have pork or some kind of a meat. I think it would be very helpful if somewhere English is adapted, and it becomes even more easier for foreign people to come in and live in Japan. See, they
At the checkout counter.
tell you how much it's taking, how much it's being built. It's very, very surprising how fast they could do at the same time.
Just as Yasmin starts cooking supper, her husband Jahir comes home from work. Jahir is an executive of a Japanese IT company. Yasmin says she cooks dinner almost every night and shows us what she's cooking.
Basically, we use two types of rice.
Yes, what is this one?
This is Japanese rice, and this is Indian rice. Sorry, this is.
We see the difference in cups.
Yeah, my children love this rice.
Oh, yes.
They are more used to Japanese rice than the Indian
rice.
because Indian rice is a little dry.
Afra and Faiza both prefer Japanese-style foods. So Yasmin tries to tone down the spices even when making traditional Indian curry. She also includes some of her daughter's favorite Japanese ingredients. It's deep-fried tofu, stirred with some spinach. Yasmin finishes cooking. But there's one more dish. It's Japanese fried noodles. The menu for the evening is Indian curry, fried tofu with spinach, and fried noodles. Dinner doesn't start until everyone is seated. The conversation revolves around school and work.
Very nice.
They say such mealtime talks are an indispensable part of their family life.
So I watched the whole process of it being made. It's interesting. How come you have yakisoba on your dining table?
I like this particular taste because it's kind of sweet and sour. So I like this particular taste more than Indian taste, but it's very similar to Indian food.
Really? So is it one of your favorites?
Yes, definitely.
I see, that's interesting. Anybody else like yakisoba? You do? Oh, you both do?
Everyone like yakisoba.
So all in all, though, when you first came here, did you think that you'd be so well adjusted with your daughters eating onigiri and having yakisoba for dinner?
No, no. When we first came to Japan, it was very, very difficult. The reason behind is food. The basic thing is food. Another thing we need to adjust is the language. Once we get to know about language, we will love the Japan like anything.
Currently, over 22,000 Indians live in Japan. They seem right at home in Edogawa Ward. It's one community that's certain to continue growing.
The Indian man in your report runs his own IT business in Japan. Is IT really that big in India?
IT is certainly big in India. It's considered the IT powerhouse of Asia, so many major European and US companies have set up their operations there. One of the bigger advantages is that English is basically an official language in India, so it's easier for engineers to collaborate with their colleagues around the world or even over the internet without being in the same place. And also Indian engineers are particularly strong in software development, so many of them are being hired to work in various countries worldwide. And talking about data related to Japan, there are currently over 22,000 Indian residents in Japan, and about 15% of them are engineers, and obviously many of them work in the IT industry. And the number is expected to grow even further in the coming years. And I have some government figures to back that up. According to the government, the number of engineers in India is supposed to reach nearly 5 million by 2015, while in Japan it will stay around 680,000. So it's more than 7 times the number of engineers in Japan.
Well, Japan is becoming increasingly connected to India in terms of economy, and there's certainly a lot of demand for India IT engineers here. So it seems we'll be seeing a lot more Indians working in the Japanese IT industry in the future.
I would say so.
Well, that ends our first edition of Channel Japan. I hope you enjoy the program. We'll be bringing you much more on the latest trends in Japan, so join us again next week.
Asia, the engine of the global economy. Japan, a regional powerhouse. And now, direct from Japan, economic news with a global impact in Chinese and English, delivered by Nikkei. Read the future, lead the economy. Nikkei, Japan's leading media for business.
This summer, Tokyo Broadcasting System presents 3 gorgeous musical shows at the new Tokyo Theater Orb. The opening, West Side Story, is one of the memorable musicals and greatest love stories of all time. $1 Million Quartet takes you to the first and only rock and roll legendary session. Romeo and Juliet is a spectacle French musical. TBS promises you wonderful theater experience in Tokyo.